mythical humans based on real people. Merlin, one of the most famous and prominent figures in the Arthurian Legion, Merlin serves as an enchanter of wizard seeking to aid an eponymous king. That's the word, eponymous. Eponymous king, born of a devil intended as the Antichrist. Merlin becomes a close advisor, but is eventually undone by his own lust and innate evil. Tricked by one of his female students after teaching her all his knowledge, Merlin is trapped within a magical prison and left to die, although seemingly entirely fictional. After removing the fantastical components of the Arthurian legend, the character of Merlin is surprisingly founded among a combination of two separate historical individuals. And this is another thing I was saying about myth, where they can actually take two events, put it together, and make it seem like it's one event. They can take two people, put it together, and create a whole mythical person. They can take two creatures, put it together, and make a whole mythical creature. So that's when I tell people about when you're looking at a story and it's mythical in it. How do you know that this person did this and that at the same time? How you know it's not an event from here and an event from there, and they put it together? Okay. Merlin based off two people. By 12th century, Geoffrey O. Monmouth in his Historia Regum Britannicae, written in 1136, the person known to audiences today as Merlin is actually a merging of Meriden Wilet and Ambrius Aurelianus. Wiley, a prophet and madman associated with the town of Carmarthen in Wales, is believed to have been a wise hermit who fled in the forest following the battle of Aphrodite during the late 6th century. Meanwhile, Aurelianus was a war leader of the Romano-British who fought against the Anglo-Saxons during the 5th century, becoming a popular rendering of a duo. Monmouth's character became immediately successful in a folk literature, enduring since a composite legend under a single moniker. So these are two people that eventually created the mythical character Merlin, a hermit and a warrior. Okay, Dracula, based off Vlad the Impaler. Okay, as the ruler of Wallachia, now part of Romania, Vlad Tepes became a notorious for the brutal tactics of employed against his enemies, including torture, mutilation, and mass murder through he did not say along with the disembowelment, decapitation, and boiling or skinning his victims alive. He preferred method was impalement and driving a witness stake through your bodies and leaving them to die for exposure during his campaign against the Ottoman invaders in 1462. Vlad repeatedly had as many as 20,000 victims impaled on the banks of the Danube. Captured by Hungarian forces and imprisoned, he was finally able to regain his seat in prison. In 1476, only to be killed in a battle the same year. Some particularly gruesome accounts claim that Vlad liked to die among the impaled bodies of his victims and would even dip his head into their blood. These gory details, as well as his legendary adopted name Dracula and his birthplace of Transylvania, have convinced many scholars that Vlad the Impaler provided partially inspiration for Stoker's famous vampire. So they saying a man knew, because a lot of people that create these things, they didn't just make them up themselves. Okay, they got them based off of another character. Just like Bloody Mary is based off Elizabeth, a lady named I think she might have been a princess who killed over 15 children and bathed herself from the blood. You know, so this is how myth works. They take stuff like this, they create a mythical character over it, and then when you go back, you say, "Oh, that's where they get it from." It comes from a real person. Ain't no coincidence. This man is from Transylvania. His name is fucking Dracula, and he drinking blood. I mean, like, come on now. I mean, who else would he get it from? Like, come on. All right, let's go. Mythical creatures. Origin of mythical creatures. Every culture across the world will have their own folklore and their own version of mythical creatures. We see mythical creatures first emerging in the classical era through the intensive collection of Greek mythologies. We can see mythical creatures such as the Cyclops, Medusa, Minotaur, and the Centaur. Classical mythical creatures serve the purpose of emphasizing the heroism of those that defeated them by being so monstrous. This is the same for later religious connotations, with the mythical creatures coming to represent the devil and emphasizing the greatest of two defeated it, using and usually representing God. In medieval times, we can see mythical creatures beginning to have metaphorical significance through their use of allegory tales and stories where the character of settling true purpose is to deliver a wider mythical creatures would represent something symbolic. An example of this is the dragon, which came to represent the devil in the biblical passages. Other mythical creatures find their origins in local folklore. For example, the Loch Ness Monster is a famously exclusive fable creature said to have been hunted for thousands of years. Okay. Centaur appears in the Greek mythology, being half man, half horse. Centaurs often appear in Greek sculptures and primal creatures. They represented chaos and savagery living in the mountains of Greece. They are outcasts from society. Mythical characters, legions, mythical creature that could be based on real character creatures. The siren. In mythology, these are now the first ones I show are mythical characters that they can't find them based off of anything, you know. So that they didn't never exist or none of didn't exist at all. They just became mythological character of the story. They're just not true. Okay, even though it might be, but they just can't find them at the time. All right. In mythology, I'm not saying there's a human and half animal. I'm just not saying that. So let me. All right, the siren in mythology, these dangerous femi fatals lure sailors to shipwreck and certain death for any who couldn't resist their tempting calls. Sometimes depicted as a mermaids, with the tail of a fish and the body of a beautiful woman. The sirens was both haunting and thrilling monsters in seafaring legends. In reality, some anthropologists believe sirens were inspired by dugongs, dugongs, a large sea mammal with a fluted tail and a close cousin to the manatee and the elephant. Like their animal relatives, dugongs are peaceful plant-eating creatures, but since they live close to the shore, approaching them too closely could risk a ship running around and hitting dangerous rocks, probably inspiring their legends. Okay, so this is how they told stories. This is how they educated. And you know how stuff goes when people start telling stories and gossiping and all this stuff changes. They become more and more supernatural. Have you ever heard of a person do so much in the streets and did so much that when you finally heard them, when people say, "I thought you were 7 foot tall. I thought you was this. I thought you was a big, strong person," because the way stuff you hearing about a person, that's how it starts. Okay, that person